Yes, it's Kilo 0, November Tango.
Kilo 0, November Tango. What's the name?
Name's Bob Baker, Ocean Baker.
Roger, Bob. And what radio are you running today, sir?
I'm running an 870 Kenwood.
All right. Well, let's see, 870 Kenwood. Okay. And give me about 10 or 15 seconds on telling me about your antenna system, sir.
Okay, my antenna is as much wire as I could throw up in my two-city lot, so it's about roughly 180-some foot long. The feed line is a balanced feed line, and I trimmed it and the antenna. Okay, imagine a G5RV. Now double the length of the top section, double the length of the balance line, and toss out the coax. And that's pretty much what I'm running, and its first fundamental is at 1.8 meg. So it does first, second, call them harmonics. Skip third does 4, 5, skip 6. So it skips 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 as far as its harmonics. But overall, it's the best antenna I've ever had in my life.
Roger. Well, it sounds good. Your radio could use a little fattening if you might be interested.
Oh, we can fatten it up a little bit. See, most people don't listen down that low. We'll give it another notch of fattening. Okay, check, 1, 2. That's going down to approximately 100, and I'll fatten it even more. And actually, that's really cutting off at about 30 to 40 hertz. And I don't know there's a whole bunch in the voice down there, but I normally chop the lows at 200 because most people ain't listening down there. But for those that are, that's 100, and I bet you'll find the 100 a little fatter. Over.
Roger. Well, we're talking dynamic range, not so much EQ, but dynamic range. You look to be about 5 dB dynamic range, and we would want to shorten that to about 3 dB and bring your average percent of peak modulation up to around 80 to 85%. And it starts with a token amount of compression, about a 3 out of 10, a 30 out of 100, just a bare minimum of compression. Nobody will ever hear it, but it does begin the fattening process. Roger?
Don't make me go into bathroom number 3 and drag out all my rat junk. Okay, we'll just go see what's inside the radio here. Okay, let's see. Okay, ALC is about half scale, so we're getting it hard enough. Now, there is, let me pull it back, because that's way too hot in my opinion. I'll pull it back a little bit. That's about 8 dB of compression right there. What's your opinion?
I'm looking for, does it have a numerical escutcheon on the potentiometer aspect? In other words, can you insert a 3 out of 10 or a 30 out of 100?
Well, it's probably easy. Yes, it's got little notches with numbers on the thing, but I give it to you by the clock, okay? There's 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock. There's 11 o'clock, 11 o'clock. There's 12 o'clock, and I know that's way too hot on compression.
Yeah, take it back to about 10 o'clock.
Okay, check 1, 2. That would be about right there.
All right, now take a look at your ALC meter, and with the mic gain in hand, adjust your mic gain to where your ALC meter is running mid-scale to 2/3.
Well, actually, on this one, it's, believe it or not, you're going to laugh, carrier level is what actually does that when you got the speech processor turned on. And now I'm popping the ALC up half scale.
All right, tell me the best thing you like about your radio in about 10 seconds.
The receiver. How quick it is to adjust the low cut and the high cut. I flat like the receiver. That's the best thing I like about it.
All right, I'm hearing you breathing a little bit, so maybe you want to take that compression down to 930.
tonight, just for grins, I'm going to watch it on the dial here. And we're going to go to 9:30. According to the little LED graph thingamajigger, that's about 6 or 8 dB of compression right there.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. You know, I just want it to do its thing. And when I hear it, I know there's too much there. So that's why I usually recommend a 3. It's, you know, if you figure the thing is from 0 to 10, 3 is just the beginning of it. And that's what I'm looking for, just about maybe 5 dB of compression. So something that I'm not going to hear suck up between words, you know?
Oh, yeah, I got you. Now, I noticed you were talking to an earlier gentleman. You're running a separate transmitter and receiver, and I think you said you're using the 7300 ICOM as your receiver. What you running for a transmitter, and what you running for a microphone and antenna?
Oh, top secret. Now, we're running an older FT990, and this is a homebrew microphone condenser with a ART preamp and a telephone that's ringing. Nobody's home. Get lost. It's probably Microsoft with an Indian accent saying, "Hey, well, we checked your computer," whatever. Anyway, yeah, and so it's mostly homebrew stuff. The 990 does a really good job, and we're running two large 10-foot magnetic loop antennas for the 7300 receive, and we're transmitting on a dipole. Roger?
Okay, I got you. Now tell me a little bit more about your magnetic loop receive antennas. Roughly what diameter are they? How far are they off the ground, and are they vertical where you can spin them in direction, or are they horizontal parallel to the ground?
Well, they're magnetic loops, vertical magnetic loops. They're 10 foot in diameter. The first one is about 3 foot off the ground, running a rotor, and the second one is about 15 feet off the ground. It's fixed, and the first one is directional north and south. The second one is east and west. And it comes in on a 3-position rotary switch where we can bring one up or the other up, or it has a co-phase condition that we put two together, and usually many times come up with a 3 to 4 dB hotter signal than either one of those loops by themselves.
Okay, now for another question. How do you tune those loops on the various bands?
I don't. I only use 7188, and since they're in the receive mode, I can't use any fancy thing inside here. They're manual tuned capacitors, so they have little dog houses that they're inside to keep them out of the weather, with a little PVC 8-inch piece of pipe coming out through the doghouse with a T on the end of it, and I take my analyzer out to each one and set the I have a breakaway right before it gets into the harness to come in, and I break it away and bring it over to next to the antenna, not too close, because magnetic loop antennas are very, very ticklish to conditions around them, and so that's why I'm using an 8-inch piece of PVC to get to the capacitor, because if you get closer, your body starts to change the resonance. But anyway, the breakaway, and you bring I've been using garbage cans for tables, and so I put a garbage can upside down around the one I'm working on, put the analyzer on it, get it hooked up, and then do the old tune method, just tune the T there, and you can magnetic loop antennas are tremendously high Q, and they're very selective frequency-wise, with just a very narrow strip of space that they're actually resonant on, and very high Q. So I would say maybe a 50 KC bandwidth, and then it's just astronomical on either side of the dip. Roger?
Oh yeah, I got you. And Therefore, you pretty much run 7188, so you don't go up to 7290 or something. You're pretty much here all the time, and you've got the thing optimized.
Oh yeah. It wants to see 7188 after it's tuned, you know. Well, I mean, you can tune it wherever you want, but it wants to be there for whatever you're doing. Because if you go out of band, or not out of band, but if you change frequency and your loops are tuned for one frequency and you go somewhere else, you're going to suffer a major loss of resonance and Q and signal strength.
Very high Q system.
Roger. And now, you know, we did a lot of testing on those 10-foot mag loops in the beginning as far as transmit antennas, and you're talking about tremendous voltages around the capacitor. We were running a kilowatt, and I built a special capacitor to run the kilowatt. I was in my Kroger and I picked up a can of red gold, medium can of red gold tomatoes, and I went on a little bit further and I got me a small can of cut green beans. Come home and ate the tomatoes and put the green beans in a thing for the wife to work on, and took the cans out and put holes in either end of the cans, put wires on it. And then I had the silicone placemat, or actually it's a trivet or something, but I cut that up into strips just as wide as the little can was, wrapped it around the little can, and slid it inside the big can with the silicone to hold it in place and also insulate it. And you're talking, for a kilowatt, you're probably talking about 35 kVA energy at the tips of those mag loops, easy at a kilowatt. And I think the arc over is about an inch or so. And these cans, the little can fit inside the big can about with an inch of clearance, and then I used that silicone to wrap around the can, which further insulated the can. And first time I took it out, hooked it up, and I was at 8 megahertz. And I said, whoa, I'm going for 7188. So about 5 minutes later, I arrived at 7188. And they worked really well. I could run about a 50-50 duty cycle for an hour and a half with only a very slight warming. Roger?
Yeah, I think one of them transmit antennas, super dot, it was over 6 and I used 3/4 inch copper tubing, and said, man, that's terrible. And I did it just about Corona like you would not believe. I'm sure the voltage was quite high.
Oh, yeah. I figure those two cans would probably be good for about 50 kVA, Roger. And incidentally, I did lose you on my mag loops, and I had to go to Atlanta SDR, and I'm copying you about 8 over on the Atlanta SDR, Roger.
I have no clue what an Atlanta SDR is. Is that one of them websites that's in Atlanta, Georgia, that you can run off your cell phone or your laptop?
That's a Roger. It's Internet SDR. I run 4 of those. I have 4 tablets in front of me, and they're all on SDRs, Internet SDRs. I'm running Arlington, Virginia, Milford, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York, and Atlanta, Georgia. Roger?
Okay, well, I'm going to have to add some of them to my list. The one I normally get is basically out of I get one out of Las Vegas, one out of...
Roger that. Roger that. Well, listen, I want to thank you for participating, and we have been recording the whole QSO, and we will post it up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you go to YouTube in the next couple of days and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to the Qso-Vlog page, and you'll be looking for one QSO entitled My Group Air Check 12-20-19. Roger?
got everything, but well, we got the 12/2019. But what was the things before the 12/2019?
The title of the QSO will be called My Group Air Check. My Group Air Check 12/2019. Roger.
Group air check, correct?
That's a Roger.
That's a Roger. Yeah, I can tell you're listening on the SDR. There's a thing called latency.
Oh, yes. Latency is a bit of a bother, but it's better than nothing, Roger.
It is a whole lot better than nothing, especially when you can't hear your buddies and you have to listen to them on the SDR. And there's another station checking in. I didn't know anyone to talk to in East Frog in Joplin, Missouri.
WG5K.
Stand by, G5K. All right, we're going to wrap up there. And what was the call sign again, sir? We're kind of doubling there. Is this is this Bob?
No, this is not Bob. The call was WG5K, and I probably trampled him, or he trampled me, or your latency bit you. So I'm going to shut up and let WG5K talk.
What is your call sign, sir?
I just listened to both of you talking on them antennas, and I was just curious. The gentleman talking about the loops. I've been a ham radio operator since 1981 and kind of gotten out of it for about 20 some odd years. So I got back in about 6 months ago and put up a 160 wave loop, and I just used my tuner. I don't know how much it weighs, but it seems like it's been working for me. I don't know if you have any comments on it. And the station in Joplin, you got a good signal here. I still think I sound like it's almost wanting a backfeed or something if it's just a tad turned down. But it sounds good, but it's just got a little bit of a tone to it. Maybe just tweak it just a tad down and you're probably perfect. But when you're talking, it sounds really good.
Sir, this is a controlled net. If you would stand by, please. Station in Missouri. Come back with the call sign again. I guess Missouri's faded out. Missouri, you still have a copy on KC9VKV and the Qso-Vlog net?
9VKV and the Qso-Vlog net?
This is K0Nt. Yes, I'm in Joplin, Missouri. I just backed off because there were some other stations that probably wanted to talk to you.
Roger, well, it's Control Net, and I'm talking to you for the moment. I just wanted to verify your call sign. Could you give me your call sign again, please?
November Tango. Kilo 0 November Tango.
Roger, Roger. And the name is Bob. Roger, Roger.
Correct.
Roger, I had a doodle that was over a very important part, but we worked it out. Well, listen, Bob, I want to thank you for participating in the Qso-Vlog, and you're sounding really good there. No, nothing needed to, actually, you're in good shape. So let me say threes to you, and appreciate the comeback and the QSO, Roger.
73s, old man. And there's a couple of guys that want to get into the net. And one of them was, I want to say WG5K, and I'm just doing that off the top of my head.
Roger, Roger. Thank you very much. And we'll say threes to you. WG5K, do you copy? Roger, Roger. What's the name there?
Name here is David, and we're in Wales, Texas. We're about 60 miles west of Fort Worth. Back to you.
Roger, David. Well, you're really pushing your ALC right now. I would suggest bring up your ALC and adjust for mid-scale to 2/3. Sounds like you're really pushing your ALC.
Okay, we'll drop it back here a little bit. Maybe that'll help it out a little.
Yes, sir. We're coming down off the moon now. Yeah, I'd suggest running that ALC at mid-scale to 2/3. So, you're not really forcing much, but when you run mid-scale to 2/3, increase your dynamic range by, actually you're decreasing your dynamic range and you're getting fatter. If you're running mid-scale to 2/3, your normal modulation, peak modulation is somewhere around, average peak modulation is somewhere around 80-85% at mid-scale to 2/3.
Okay, we get it back to 2/3 there, and that should help it out quite a bit.
Oh, much. Yeah, I think audio has to breathe. And when you get up against the wall, there's no place to go. There's no dynamics at all. Then it's just right in your face, and it doesn't sound warm, And I think a warm audio is really important. And in order to have that, you have to have it breathe. It has to have some dynamic range. I think, average speech has about 10 dB dynamic range, and if you want a little bit fatter than that on your HF radio, so I found that 3 dB is the ideal position to have your audio, and then that, like I say, would be about 80 to 85% of average peak modulation.
Oh, okay. And you said dB, 3 dB, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. In other words, if you were to put a VU meter on a PA system and somebody's talking into the microphone without any processing, they would be probably at about a 10 dB dynamic range. With no processing, the average voice is about 10 dB dynamic range. And dynamic range is the difference between the loudest part of your speech and the weakest part. So, unprocessed is about 10 dB. So if you were to transmit 10 dB, it would be probably about 30% of average peak modulation, which is not real good in today's situation with all the noise and whatnot. So we want to fatten that up and go from 10 dB dynamic range to a 3 dB dynamic range, and go from 30% average peak modulation to 80 to 85% average peak modulation. Roger?
Oh, Roger. Well, I think I got it turned down there enough. Maybe that'll be okay. I just wanted to say hello. You're sounding good here in Texas, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll let somebody else get in there and visit with you. And take care, WG5K.
Roger, and I think the audio is, to my taste, is a lot warmer now. And we are recording from 3:30 till 5, so we have been recording. And if you would like to hear the difference between the then and the now, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will take you to our Qso-Vlog page. And on that page, you'll be looking for one specific QSO entitled My Group Aircheck 12/2019. My Group Aircheck 12/2019, which is today's date. And then you can listen to your audio and see the beginning and the end, or the after. Roger?
Okay, could you repeat that call for me one more time?
The call is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. Repeat, Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. Roger?
Okay, Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. I got it, and I'll look at that. That sounds interesting. I'm sure there's some others out there wanting to get with you, so I won't tie it up anymore. 73's Kilo Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor. This is WG5K.
Roger, David. 3's that way, sir, and you have a really good day. And you're sounding great from Texas. Just beautiful. You were about 10 over the noise level of Atlanta, Georgia SDR. We did lose you on our local mag loops, but we did pick you up about 10 over the noise level of Atlanta on their SDR. So 3's to you, David, and we'll catch you later. This is KC9VKV and the Friday afternoon Qso-Vlog network. If you've got a radio you want to check out, give us a shout.